Coming up, call for council to do more to support local DV organisations. New Deputy Mayor champions a new library. A real stink over waste odours. Renaming Pisasale Bridge and Road hits a speed bump. Still no decision on the ideal pool temperature, while a new pool at Leichhardt is delayed. Also in this episode, council backs the Winternationals and CMC Rocks at Willowbank Raceway. Mayor Teresa Harding joins the show following the May meeting of Ipswich City Council. It's Friday, May 20, 2022, and I'm Alan Roebuck. Welcome to Ipswich Today, which acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which it is produced and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. This podcast is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. Thanks for joining Ipswich Today, Mayor Harding.
Oh, thank you, Alan, for the invitation.
Can we start with the end of the meeting first, where there were I think I counted five notices of motion. Let's start with Councillor Marnie Doyle's motion for Council to develop a domestic violence strategy, a very commendable motion. It even brought a few tears to the chamber.
It did. Council does a lot of work in this area whether it comes with working with our community, but also internally with our staff as well. So I really commend Marnie on a really good notice of motion to develop a domestic violence strategy for in Council, which will address how Council is addressing domestic and family violence within the community and also in our workplace. So it was a bit emotional, I think. I think all of us have got stories, unfortunately, when it comes to this. We know people or friends, and I really commend Marnie for this, and it was a unanimously voted motion.
The other notices of motion basically covered Council's bread and butter, libraries and roads. Are some councillors trying to cut corners with the budget process? After all, libraries aren't cheap. And more importantly, are their actions causing chaos in the administration?
Look, I wouldn't say chaos. I'd say that we do spend a lot of money on libraries. We spend over $11 million each year out of our $520 million budget. So, any library is several $1 million each and every year. But we do know in Ripley and we do know in Redback Plains that what is on offer is not adequate. There's no library at all in Ripley Valley. So, look, I think it was good to get it on the table. And for the organisation to start planning on how do we get a really good library down in Ripley, and how do we address, I guess, at Redback Plains, we've got a very small library at Redback Plains that is not accessible by public transport, as well as a smaller one as well at the Redbank Plaza. So what do we do to make sure we have a really good service for our residents? I
don't want to belittle notices of motion, Mayor. In the last council and previous councils, they were used sparingly, but we're seeing them used more and more in this term of council. Are they being used in the spirit or intent of what a notice of motion should be about?
Look, I have a preference to make sure that we don't have a notice of motion which commits council to a financial commitment, but I guess I'll look at the purse strings because we do have a budget process. But I also believe that we should enfranchise every councillor. So I do encourage every councillor to put up a notice of motion. I do prefer if they've know the costings so we can have a good decision. But I guess today we saw a few there that don't have costings, but they will come to us later with costings.
Turning to the Mayoral Minute at the start of the meeting, it looks like Council's turning up the heat on the state to do more over stinky waste operators. What's Council's next move?
Yeah, we passed a mayoral motion unanimously today to write a letter to the Health Minister, Yvette D'Arth, asking her to commission a panel to investigate, have a public investigation inquiry here. Back on the 10th of April, the community held a Stop the Stink rally, and the former member of Bundamba, Joanne Miller, was there, and she made this suggestion. So I sort of waited a month and didn't see any movement. So we've decided that we'll write to the department and get them to do a public health inquiry.
Item 14.1, which is the somewhat controversial removal of the Pisasale name from a bridge and road. Council was about to make a decision on the next steps, but at the last minute there was intervention from Councillor Tully and has put that on hold. What was Council going to try and move forward with at this month's meeting?
Look, it's a shame we didn't get the opportunity to discuss the outcomes because we did a great deal of community consultation, and I think it would have been really good for us to, I guess, also close this chapter on our community as well. So, look, what we were wanting to do is that the community sentiment is for the bridge and the drive to be named after an Indigenous word. So I did move an amendment for the CEO to work with traditional owners to come up with a name that they think is appropriate and I guess will be more appropriate for our city. unfortunately, we didn't get to discuss the motion. It's been laid on the table. I believe that Councillor Tully would like some more information.
Moving to the Community Culture, Arts and Sport Committee, the Georgie Conway Pool just can't get out of the spotlight. Still no decision on what the right pool temperature is. It would seem lappers like the current temp, others not so keen. And there's also talk about extending the pool or a new pool at Leichhardt. What are the details there?
Yeah, look, obviously there's a lot of people who'd like the pool to be warmer, and I think it's appropriate to have a pool. My personal opinion would to have a pool that's a little bit warmer for people who are doing rehabilitation or seniors and things like that. The current lessee at the Georgie Conway Pool is under obligation, I think, to spend about $320,000 for an enclosed pool to be, I think, a 12 metre by 7 metre pool. And today we discussed have the DAs gone in, the development application's gone in to build that pool. It doesn't look like it has. So I guess it does take time for these things, but it would have been really lovely to have something up and running before winter. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that will happen.
From the Economic and Industry Development Committee, it's great to see council supporting signature events in the city. Willowbank Raceway with the Winternationals and one of my personal favourites, CMC Rocks.
Yeah, that's really great. Obviously, we just had the Ipswich show where council put $45,000 towards that. This weekend we have the gathering, and council do contribute to that. But CMC Rocks and the Winternats are really large, national events, and we're really quite fortunate to have them here. And it's great for them to stay out here in Ipswich despite COVID and all the setbacks they've had. So I think people of Ipswich and the South East Queensland are raring to go and can't wait to be part of these events. There
certainly has been some setbacks, Mayor Harding, and I know motorsport fans of the Winternationals and country music fans will be very happy to hear that news. What's the latest on the Nicholas Street precinct? Tenancies, cinema, what's new?
Well, obviously announced Zembrero has been locked in now, and it's not a franchise, it's actually the corporate office. So there'll be a branch of Zembrero out here in the Nicholas Street precinct, and I don't know if you've had them before, but it's delicious Mexican food, so we're quite delighted they'll be joining that dumpling place, as well as Gelatissimo and Sushi Hio as well, so and the Commonwealth Hotel. So it's quite exciting. So hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks we'll see something there, and I think people are just itching to see more things open up in the Nicholas Street precinct. I know we certainly are in council, but I know that people of Ipswich love their CBD. They can't wait to come along. And as far as the cinema goes, Alan, we probably won't see anything till March or April next year.
Okay, it is dragging on just a little. What about the fences? Have they come down yet in Union Place?
No. They were supposed to come down a couple of weeks ago, but no, I just noticed yesterday, I didn't see it this morning, they were still up.
Can we wrap up this chat, Mayor Harding, talking about the most recent flood? It's still wet, there's more rain on the forecast. What's been the impact on council roads, parks and sports fields to date?
Look, it's had a pretty big impact. The massive 2 rain events have had a big impact. We've still got 7 of our 100 sporting fields can't be used, and so we're working with the clubs to have alternative arrangements. But it's really nice to play at your own field in your own clubhouse. And on the weekend, I was at the Ipswich Touch over at 1 Mile there, and they haven't been able to use their field for some time, and obviously their clubhouse was flooded as well. So, look, council's working with everyone to see if we can help them as quickly as possible. When it comes to roads, obviously we are prioritising where there's traffic. Lob Street in particular, the Lob Street bridge at 1 Mile is very highly is used a lot. So we did prioritise that. We had the engineers out there straight away, and that opened yesterday, which is really great to see. Yes,
they certainly got onto that very quickly. Coming out in the news in the last little while, Brisbane City Council is going to put on hold some very major projects because they've just got such a backlog of flood repairs. What's the situation in Ipswich?
Look, we obviously discussed the impact of the flood on our budget and our capital delivery today at Council. It is having an impact. So, look, we'll have to see what we can do. There are certainly key works that are being deferred to the next financial year, but we need to see our ability to deliver. It will also depend on how much the state and the federal governments provide to us. I know there's a lot of money being thrown around, but at the moment we've only received $1 million from the state and the federal governments for some work. So we certainly need the state and the federal governments to put up their fair share to help us with our roads, our sporting clubhouse, but also help with our residents as well. There's been a lot of discussion about buybacks. We need to have a really serious discussion with our community on what's possible and how do we help people be as safe as possible.
Well, we've talked about council-owned facilities and roads, and you briefly mentioned residents. Do you have any detailed insight on the progress of repairs for flood-affected residents and businesses?
With the rains that happened on the weekend, we know that no homes or businesses were inundated, so that was, very fortunate. But we do know a lot of people did move because, just in case it did flood, and a lot of businesses also made those provisions. So it's quite tough backing up after only having a flood 11 weeks before. So look, if anyone needs any help or support, please ring council. We certainly help facilitate support when it comes to either housing or some counselling or in grants and so on. So please feel free to call us.
We'll leave it there. Thank you for talking again with Ipswich Today, Mayor Harding.
Thank you, Alan. I really appreciate that, and thank you to listeners as well.
And a reminder, you will find handy links in the show notes, including Ipswich City Council's YouTube channel, where you can watch meetings live and on demand. Ipswich Today is supported by Kinetics, people-powered web hosting trusted by Australian businesses since 1999. This podcast is also listener-supported. Please make a once-only gift or regular donation to help keep it online. Just go to ipswichtoday.com.au and click the donate button on the homepage to make a payment through PayPal. Follow and stream this podcast from your favourite app, including iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts, or play Ipswich Today from smart speakers. Music is supplied by Purple Planet Music. This is Alan Roebuck. Thank you for listening.